Okay, that should be better. We got anything? Do we got any noise so far? There we go. We should have music. We should have sound. I royally messed up my sound earlier for a Zoom call. Something happened where it turned all of my levels in Windows to 0, and I couldn't figure it out for a little while. So hopefully we're good now. Yes, perfect. Glad you can hear me now. Welcome everyone. Just got to do the intro again. Welcome to another day of Mastermind Academy. Good to see you all. What's up, Pones in? What's up, She the Boss? Good to have you. What's up, Loco? Welcome to the channel. YGBSM. We were in fact on time, even though without sound, we were here on time. Thank you for, as soon as you typed that in is when I had to come in. I appreciate that. I could feel you calling. So what's up, Hack Phase? Glad we got it. Mr. Smoofy, thank you so much. What's up, Pequeño Jalapeno? Welcome, Sin City. Nor, welcome to the channel. Tonight we are back with Waddle, part 2 of 6. We're moving pretty quick. It's Wednesday. I hope everyone's happy that hump day is over. Hopefully you're off work, here on the East Coast. Everyone should be, just about getting off. But yeah, we the work week is halfway done. And we only got 2 days left, the 2 best days of the week. I'm actually a fan of Mondays. I don't like Tuesdays, don't love Wednesdays. I do like Thursdays, and most of the time I like Fridays, but not always. But tonight's gonna be fun. Tonight we are gonna be doing some cool stuff. Tonight we are going to be diving into the command line after learning how to just a little bit about Linux, what we learned last time, and how to get it installed. Hopefully you were able to get some version of the Linux command line installed, whether that be through Windows Subsystem for Linux, whether that be through VirtualBox, whether that be if you're on a Mac, you're already fine, or if you grabbed a server, if you grabbed a DigitalOcean droplet or some kind of VPS, where you're gonna be good to go today, and we're gonna learn a lot. There's a lot of slides today. Nope, yeah, I'm in Pones. I'm in Baltimore. I'm not in ATL. Migrating a reduction data lake next week. Not trying to panic. So one, we will all take you into our prayers, because a production data lake sounds very, it sounds scary. It is kind of scary, but you'll be okay. You'll definitely be all right. All you got to do is definitely don't panic beforehand. If something goes bad, that's when you got to really buckle down, keep yourself calm, because there's going to be, during a migration, there's going to be some problems. But it'll be okay. It'll be okay. This is an expected time to have problems, but I think everything will be all right. Let us know how everything goes. I'd love to hear your experience with that. I've actually never migrated a data lake. I've never dealt with enough data for people to consider it a data lake. I do. Lots of data scares me. Data consistency. It's scary. I'm glad I do not have to do that very often. But definitely let us know how it goes. If you don't have the link to the slides and everything, make sure you click on that link. You should now see, let's grab this and just paste it in here, paste it in. We should now see day 2 in here, and I will click into day 2, and now this is what you should be brought up with. Can I do what you're doing tonight with Docker, Ubuntu, Bash that we learned last night, Mr. Smoofy? Yes, actually, there will be some pieces that are, yes, you can do everything that we do tonight. You should be able to do in that Docker, Ubuntu, Bash container. But it sounds like if you already have it running, then you're probably already in Linux somewhere, or you have Linux available to you. But yes, absolutely you can. We're just gonna be learning the basics of navigation tonight. Actually, there's a number of topics that I don't think I included on the site. There's a few bullet points I left out on a few of the days. You're on Windows. Okay, yeah, you can do this in the are you using, for Docker, are you using yeah, probably you'll need to, you can do it inside of that container if you want, if you know how to get in there. Marty burning on my stage. Oh yes, it's your Linus Torvalds shrine. Yes, all of us Linux lovers have a Linus Torvalds shrine. It's necessary. But yeah, yes, perfect. That Docker run, that's exactly what you need, and you will be able to run these commands. I feel like, Mr. Smoothie, I feel like you're already a pro. You're already a pro knowing some cool Docker run commands. But okay, so make sure you click on this. Make sure you can get to it. Okay, thank you. You cannot get into it. So let me fix that really quick. Let's fix this real quick. Oh yeah, well, that's really good. So they just have you do bash. That makes sense. There may be another step after that when you run that, but if not, I'll tell you what to do. Let's see. Part 2. Let's go ahead and make sure this is open to the world. Let's make sure everyone can get a little piece of these slides. You know, it's what the people want. Anyone with the link can go ahead and get the slides. I think you should be good to click on it now. Let me know if you're not. I think you can get in there now. I'll wait till I see 1 or 2 people's things on there. You know, you don't have to go in there. You can watch me go through them. There are a number of slides tonight. There are 27 slides. There are 6 numbered slides, so you know, 21 slides. But yeah. Hold on. I might have to go out and get my water in a second, but I'll wait till I get thirsty. No big deal right now. Let's actually, no, before we get started, I will do that. Be right back. Just gonna get my water. That was quick. It was a lot closer than I thought it was. And the only reason I shut off my camera is, you know, to avoid the, you know, you gotta avoid plumber's crack or whatever it may be. You never know what's gonna happen. I might trip and fall, and you know, and I don't want to be an internet meme. You know, it might be kind of cool, but you want to avoid those things sometimes. But yeah, I got my water now. You know, got to make sure you stay hydrated. Got to make sure you stay great. Whew, that's good. It's a little too cold. But okay. What time is it? It's 7:10. Yeah, we got 1 more minute. Let's full screen. Yes, we've already had a derobed class. So, you know, I'm trying to avoid as many slip-ups as possible, you know, just this body is in progress. I told you in a year I will look like The Rock, and you know, I don't want to expose, you know, the goods too soon. So, you know, just making sure everything, keep the surprise in the box. That's all that matters. So cool. Day 2, Waddle, Foundations in Linux. Let's get started, because like I said, it's a lot of slides, but it's gonna be a lot of hands-on stuff tonight. Okay. What's up, Pylang? How you doing tonight? Today's topics. What are today's topics that we're going to be covering? We're going to be covering the Linux file system. And you don't need to be a pro at this. We're going to cover, we're going to go through a lot about it, but you don't need to be a pro at it. We're just going to kind of get introduced to it. I think over time, it's really good to have a primer in this so that you can understand how things are kind of set up, where things are going, why they're going, where they're going. We'll talk about the GUI versus the CLI. When we get there, we'll talk about what those things are. Intro to shells, intro to the command line and command line navigation. There's actually another section after command line navigation, which is like command line concepts. There's a few things that I want to teach you tonight to kind of prepare you for more things that we are going to learn. Most of what we do in this course is going to be learning how to manage a Linux computer and understanding Linux from the command line. So that is what we will be doing. So Linux file system. All right. Number 1, this part is the most boring, I think, but it's okay. You know, get the boring stuff out of the way early. We'll keep it simple. It actually gets, there's a lot of information that you can find out there about the Linux file system. I don't think it is necessary to be an expert on the Linux file system or the types of file systems that you can have, the types of formats that you can have, all those things. Like, those are not things that we need to know. But what I do want you to know is that on a Unix / Linux, so I probably should change it to slash Linux, but remember Linux is built out of the GNU project. We talk about that, which is supposed to make a GNU is not Unix. It's a recursive acronym, but Linux is a Unix like operating system. So on a Unix and a Linux system, everything is a file. If something is not a file, it's a process. So that is very important, and that really helped me be less afraid of things when I started to learn how to configure things in Linux. I started to understand where things were. Everything's a file, everything. If it's not a file, it's a process, binary maybe, but it's a process. A process or a file is what everything is. Even directories. There's a couple different types of files, and we're not gonna go over those tonight, but there's a couple different types. A directory is a file, so you can think files and folders in your head if you would like, but if it's not a file, it is a process. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I know that may sound crazy, but it is true. And I want you to know, the only other thing that I really want you to know about the Linux file system, kind of high level, is that it's a tree. It's a tree system, starting from, a trunk, and we'll talk about that and how to traverse it right now, actually. And so now we went from those really nice and chill informational sentences there to probably what is a slightly overwhelming tree of information. And remember, I did say it was a tree and it comes from a trunk, and so this is the trunk here, and if you turn it side, you turn your head to the right a little bit, you will see a tree, or maybe Hanukkah candles or something, whatever you need to do in your mind to make you understand it. It is a directory tree, and this is the structure of a Linux file system. The next slide is going to dive deeper into what each of these are, but I want you to take a look at what this is. Notice that the one that is right here is a slash. Linux file systems always start with slash, and that is a very important concept tonight. That is one that I want you to put a star by. I want you to circle. It always starts with slash. That is where the system begins. That's where the file system starts. It's a very important concept. So slash, forward slash, I know what forward slashes are because of you all. So forward slash, that's where they start. And this is a good breakdown of directories. This is not everything, but this is a structure. And there's like a word for it. It's like a standard Linux file system hierarchy or something like that. And this is what we have. And so you can see there's a slash bin, there's a slash sbin, etc. And so I'm saying these in the way that people say them. And one of the reasons why you're going to want to start to understand these things, or become familiar with the kind of breakdown, is people are going to refer to these things as, hey, so you're going to ask someone where a file is or where something is. They're like, oh yeah, I put it in bin, or I put it in etc, or I put it in user. And they're referring to this directory tree here, this common Linux hierarchy right here, the standard Linux hierarchy, and they have different use cases. Now, these are just files and folders, and so things don't have to match up with these. They don't have to, but this is the ideal setup and infrastructure of them. So we have binary files. So these are actually, you know what, that's what the next slide is for. But just take a look here. Media mount, there's a bunch of different ones. We're going to break these down in a second, but I put this one, the next slide is very similar to this one, but with a little bit more of it's got some more explanations on it, because I think it's easier to visualize here. I think it's very difficult to visualize on the next slide. Notice that hierarchy though. Notice all, like, slash starts the whole file system, and these are all the things. Also notice how all of these begin with slash. This slash that they all begin with is actually this slash right here, and it's just prepended to all of these. We're going to talk about what that means later. We're going to talk about what that looks like later, but this is why I said I wanted to show you this one first and then show you this one. So this one is flipped on its axis a little bit. This one is flipped on the axis. The link to the slides. Yes, Lewis, there's a link to the slides. Someone hit the if you hit exclamation point Waddle, it'll take you to the slides. This is day 2. So you type that in the chat and you can get it. but it's really good. There's also a video, so just make sure you do get here, because there's also a really nice video down here that's gonna go way more in depth about the things that we're about to talk about now. This is a really good video on the Linux file system and structure. It's pretty dope. I really like it a lot. But this breaks it down a little more just to tell you about what each of these things is for. But slash, you see the slash up here? That is the root of the system. That is the base of the system, root. Think about a tree, that's the root, starts from the bottom, and that's the root. And then things are broken off from there. You have bin. The bin directory is a very common one, and it's for essential binaries that are needed to run processes on your system. And then there's this boot folder, and etc is there for a lot of configuration files. So if you ever need to configure an application and you're not sure where to go, it's likely that there's a file that's been put inside of this folder for you to go ahead and modify. You do not need to memorize what these directories are for. You don't need to. Okay. Ooh, that's a Anakin loop. I like that. I like that. We'll talk about that in a second too. Not to be confused with slash root. That is very true. But these are all, yes, I would take this infographic here, combine it with the other one to help your mind wrap around the structure a little bit. But each of these just has an ideal use case. So slash var is for variable data files. So things like logs change all the time. Logs gather information about an application or process as it's doing things. And so those files are constantly changing. They're variable data files, and so logs generally are in the var log directory. And so there's common places. Once you kind of learn this structure, you'll start to understand, you'll start to just know where to go to find certain things, or have a good idea where to go to find certain things. The home directory, we'll talk about users' home directories. We're going to talk about file pathing tonight, but there's a home directory. This is where traditionally user directories go. And there's a lot of places. Mount is where you're going to mount different file systems and things, and there's just a bunch of stuff here. Anakin Luke brought up a good point. This is the root of the system, and notice that it is in quotes. It is not the same thing as slash root. And you'll see here, slash root. This is the home directory for the root user. These are not the same thing. This is just the word to describe what this is. This is an actual directory. I know it can be very confusing. Just know slash. Slash is it's the very base of the system. It is where the system starts. The word that people use to describe that, to talk about that, is root. And that's why it is in quotation marks up here. That is not the same thing as root here. There's this directory structure here. It does not mean you cannot add your own directories in here. This is just the directory structure that is standard. This is the standard directory hierarchy for Linux systems. Again, I wanted to introduce you to it. I know how overwhelming all of these words can be. You will learn what they are over time. You will actually be completely fine before you do. So you don't need to, don't sweat. It's like, oh no, I need to sit down and memorize all these things. No, you don't. I didn't know what these directories were for. You started to get an idea, but I didn't even really sit down and understand what these directories were until like 2.5 years into my Linux career, to be 100% honest. Again, you start to know, and then one day, I think I came across something like this, and I was like, oh man, I wish I had found this a long time ago, because it would have helped me out a little bit. But you will pick it up over time, so don't stress yourself out right now about this. I want you to just know that everything's a file. In Linux, if it's not a file, it is a process. I want you to see the kind of standard Linux directory structure that we have here. There's some really common ones that we'll talk about a lot. Some of the common ones that you'll talk about a lot are bin, etc for sure, var, temp, home and user, and maybe mount. You'll end up using all of these for something, but those are coming as just some of the more common ones. But yeah, that's all I want you to know. Linux, nothing but files. If it's not a file, it's a process, and that is a file system tree. And this is a hierarchy, though. I want people to understand that this is a hierarchy. Think about it like all of these things exist inside of slash, and anything, if there was another directory inside of this binary folder, it would need to be related. So it would go from slash to bin to whatever file. So like it is kind of there is a structure here. There's a hierarchy. You can't there's a hierarchy here in the way that you travel through these directories, and that hierarchy matters. That'll make more sense when we are moving in between them. User programs should be use Unix system resources, where on here somewhere. I didn't make this. I'm not sure where you're looking at here. I noticed a lot of Docker files use the /opt folder for storage as working directory. Is there a reason for that? Add-on application software. I have noticed that as well. Docker by default will take it and put it there. It is an add-on application software. I had actually never personally used the opt folder for anything before that. So yeah. On here, for Unix system resources for user programs, for user, I don't know. A lot of times I think a lot of programs have moved away from this, and people still put things in the user bin, user s bin for Unix system resources. Maybe on a Unix system, but on a Linux system, this is where the user programs go. Binaries and applications for user programs that end up only being useful or usable by that user. So I don't know. It was a user directory. Oh yeah, it's definitely not a user directory. For sure isn't. It is the user directory. It is the user directory. It is not a user's directory. Patients are correctly starting to use the opt instead of etc and other directories. Yeah, again, that's why. So everyone, the discussion that we're kind of having now is just about what people are seeing, certain directories being used for certain things. Again, these directories are these aren't like the system won't work unless you put variable data files in here. No, that's not true at all. It's just a form of organization. And so you can build an application to put things wherever. Now that may cause issues, but each of these folders they're just files. And so this is just a good usage case for organizing your files in the file system. So take a look at that video that I put in there. It'll dive deeper into what goes into each of these things. It is helpful. Again, do not spend too much time trying to memorize every single thing. It'll come. It helps if you have the time. If you want to become a Linux pro, sure, take the time to sit down and really memorize it. If you want to learn how to use Linux, be aware of this, start to pick this up over time, but you will, don't spend too much time killing yourself trying to memorize all of those things. All right. Next, we're going to hop into interfaces. So actually, any questions about file systems, again, ask away. Like I said, we didn't dive too deep because file systems gets pretty deep. And although this is a deep dive into Linux, this is one of the topics that I don't think you need to be an expert at to understand how to both effectively use Linux as well as how to effectively manage Linux systems. The better you know this, the better you will be at it, but it's something that gets something that you get better at over time. Mount might be good to cover. So that's a good one. So the mount directory, this /mount directory allows you to mount or to attach. It's an attachment point for different drives and disk partitions. So on like a Windows machine, and so I can, once we get into the command line here, I'll show you. But it's a place where you inside of Windows, I can go here and my devices and drives are all listed here. These drives and these partitions and these things are mounted to the computer at a specific location, at a specific access point. So that /mount directory becomes an access point for these drives and these partitions that you can use to store and extend your file system. To be honest, you can mount things elsewhere as well, but mount is generally the place that you go ahead and do that at. You want to have an option stored in a config file somewhere. Yeah, so that's a really good one. Frequency hop. All you need to know is that, you know, if you need to change something, there's always an option stored in some configuration file somewhere. So if you're ever going through something and you install something and you're going through tutorial for Linux and they tell you to install this thing and they say, all right, and once it's installed, go ahead and change this option, just know that that just means that there's a file somewhere that has some option in it, some text in there, and you just need to go find that text and change that option to make it do what you want to do. And then generally, if you kind of understand this file structure, you'll probably know that, hey, there, you know, the thing I'm looking for might be in this /etc directory. Maybe not, but it's a good place to look if you're unsure. And maybe, you know, that configuration file might be included you know, in the user bin directory, wherever the binaries for the programs are set. Who knows, they might be in your home directory, but there's a file somewhere that you can probably modify to have the intended outcome that you want. All right, so that is the very basics of file systems. Again, not too deep. Please watch that video, is very good. I don't know how long it is. Let's see, how long is this? It's 16 minutes. And it's a pretty good video of breaking down those different sections and the things that go in there. I think it'll be worth your while. I think you'll get a lot out of it and it will help you in the long run. All right, so interfaces. So this is not the types of interfaces that are in programming, but we're talking about how do you interface with a computer? How do you interface with a Linux system? The first way is a GUI. It's a graphical user interface. This is what you're looking at right now. A graphical user interface is a type of user interface through which users interact with electronic devices, your computer, via visual indicator representations. And I want you to think desktop Linux. So when I say desktop Linux, let's go back to full screen. When I say desktop Linux, escape, I'm hitting the wrong key. I'm talking about this here, what you're seeing right here. If I want to manage my computer, if I want to open up a program, if I want to see my files, I simply click on my files. And if I want to see what's in my documents folder, I simply click into my documents folder and I use my mouse and to interact with these things. If I want to move something around, I can drag it. This is a graphical user interface. It is a way for me to interface with my computer graphically. And that's all a GUI is. You'll see GUI a lot, and that's what it is. So think desktop Linux. And remember, I gave you the two options on day one that you could install, either desktop Linux or server, the server edition. Most computers running Linux are actually running a server edition or a setup that does not have a graphical user interface, just because, you know, I like to use the words desktop versus server because that's generally the split, but there's, you know, that does not mean the edition is a server edition. You can run desktop Linux on your computer and not be running the GUI. I could actually change, we'll learn about run levels later. I can change my run level for this computer and I could drop straight into a command line only interface for interfacing with the computer. But yes, this is a graphical user interface. Pretty, you know, use your mouse and keyboard. Yep, perfect. Use your mouse and keyboard, Pylang. And that is what a graphical user interface is. Graphics, you know, pretty straightforward. And so a CLI, so we got the two three-letter acronyms. We had GUI, graphical user interface. Now we have CLIs, or CLI, which is command line interface. So a graphical user interface, and we have a command line interface. In a command line interface, it processes commands to a computer program in the form of lines of text. Think server editions of Linux, server versions of Linux that don't come with that. We created one, we logged into it. It did not have this graphical user interface that you're seeing now. And so that is what you're going to be managing from a terminal, or, you know, you know, your terminal, your command prompt, whatever. This is what it is. It is an interface for your computer, and it's a way for you to manage your computer through text, lines of text, rather than using your mouse. It's keyboard only. Yeah, and you can submit commands to your computer. What I want you to know, and I have a slide coming about it, but I'm gonna give it to you once now so that we can cement it when we get to that slide. But this is not a special thing here. This window is your computer. It is it's a space to interact with the same computer that we are interacting with when we click on things. We can do the same things in both places, and that blows some people's minds, but we can do the same thing in both places. And so, you know, it's not a different thing. It's not some special side program where you're doing fancy stuff. No, it is a way for you to interface with your computer. And even though this one looks cool and looks really nice, this is the same thing as what we got dropped into our server edition of Ubuntu when we spun it up via VirtualBox. So we'll, again, like I said, we'll cement that in a little bit, but it's usually, I see people like not really understand that. They think this is some kind of special, you know, side thing. And then once they realize, you know, it's the same, we'll make some parallels to what we're seeing versus what we're doing in the CLI. And I think it'll make a little bit of sense. Chicken or the egg, the CLI came first. Yeah, you know, CLI definitely came first. And then, you know, humans, you know, we don't like text. We don't like to read. Some of us don't like to read, but you know, it is easier. I do think it's more human to interact with a computer and using a GUI, using an interface. I think it's more fun as well. Well, sometimes, you know, until you become a master with your keyboard and you're amazing at Vim and file editing and all the cool stuff. I do think it is more fun for users generally to interact via a GUI, as well as more human to interact with the GUI. You know, dragging and dropping makes a little bit more sense. CLI is a little bit more procedural, and you kind of got to understand what is happening in the background a little bit. So yeah. And the Linux GUI is just called, yes. So great point. So we talked about those desktop. Well, so that's the desktop environment, but so the desktop environment we talked about is the view and the things that, you know, allow me to interact with these things really nicely. That's GNOME 3, but this is actually what you're actually seeing is what allows you to see these programs is actually running through a display server. You're running things through something called an X server that allows you to run applications that have a GUI, that have a display option. This is actually an option in WSL and WSL2 for some programs as well. But yes, it is not, GNOME isn't particularly the thing that is the GUI. It's part of the GUI. It's not what allows you to see it. So I guess technically GNOME is the interface. So I think you're right there. GNOME is the interface, but if GNOME was broken here, we would actually still see things. Yes, it's the window, and it's not really the window, it's the whole display manager. We would still see things, but we would not see this stuff up here. We would still be able to see the background probably. We would still be able to see some other things. But yeah. And GNOME is running through a display server. So the display server, the X server, is what's really allowing it. I don't think this is running Wayland. But yeah, it is exactly like Explorer.exe. It is the same, exactly. But yes, so let's slide back in here. What's next? Okay. Any questions about GUIs versus CLIs? So command line interface versus a graphical user interface, a way to interface with your computing system. That's all these two things are, two different ways to do it. And all of the operating systems you know about have different ways to do it. Why is GNOME the best and only necessary desktop environment? That is a great question, Frequency Hub. I see you're trying to start a desktop environment war here, and I'm all in for wars. I'm all in for desktop environment wars. I'm all in for language wars. I'm all in for distro wars. I'm joking. Use what's good for you. GNOME 3, I do agree. A lot of people dislike it. A lot of people dislike GNOME 3 because GNOME 1 and GNOME 2 had a much more traditional Windows-like feel. And people like that. They like the simplicity of it. It also was low powered. It didn't have a lot of overhead. So, you could run, when Linux users were traditionally power users and wanted as much power, to keep as much power as they could. and their desktop environment would take up some of that, and they didn't care about all the flashy stuff. And so as GNOME got more flashy to extend to more people, and so that more people would like it, people really don't like there's a lot of hate for GNOME 3, a lot of hate for GNOME 3, a lot of hate for Unity. But I think it's become the standard on some of the more common desktops. I think Fedora is GNOME 3 as well now, but there are a bunch of other desktop environments I think you all should try. Budgie, there's Budgie, there is KDE, there's XFCE, there's so many. The Linux world is wild and crazy, but yeah, I just stick with I stick with GNOME 3. It works for me. I can make it look cool. I like a beautiful desktop environment, and I think that it is beautiful. But great question. I like the controversial questions. Bring them on. The best GUI is no GUI. Come at me, get off my. Hey, I mean, I like to have a GUI because I can also operate. I can extend my non-GUI, my CLI. I can extend my CLI with really cool GUI options. So yeah. Yeah, some are exactly desktop environments. Some are better if you like Mac. So there are some that are more Mac-like. There are some that are more Windows-like, and there are some that are better if you have lower power computers, or if you just want your desktop environment to be lightweight. There's a lot of choice in Linux. This is another reason why people love Linux desktop. It's because there's a ton of choice in what you use now. That comes with a price. That comes with research and trial and error and all that stuff. But there's a lot of choice, and that is the reason why I still do love Linux. But yeah. What's up, X3M Linux? Ooh, you got the name for tonight's class. I like that. It would be hard to watch a stream in the terminal, even though there are ways to kind of do it. But yeah, but cool. That's it for CLIs versus GUIs. Let's get a little bit of water and let's keep going. Because we want to get hands-on. We really want to get hands-on tonight. Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to make this larger when we get onto this piece. All right, so shells. I want to introduce you to shells. Shells, this is another war that you can have. There's so many options. This is something that can start a little bit of a war. I feel very strongly. I've been very vocal on the channel about how strongly I feel about certain shells, even though you'll see that my true real life actions are in contradiction to the words that I say, but it's okay. We'll talk about it plenty. But what are shells? A shell is a program that interprets your input and executes actions based on that input in a CLI. So basically, a shell is a program that interprets the commands that you deliver to the computer. So from a command line interface, you are supposed to input commands. You need a program to interpret those commands so they can execute certain actions. And a shell is what allows you to do that. Now, different shells can interpret your commands differently, and different shells can have different tools and features. And this is why shells are, it's one of those things like desktop environments, like your distribution of choice, that, people feel very strongly about. Different shells, have different things in them and different benefits, different drawbacks as well. And so that will be on, I'm going to give you a little bit of information about some shells, but it will be up to you to go explore the world of shells, explore the world of desktop environments, explore the world of Linux distributions, and find the ones that are good for you, that you like, and learn why you like them and why you don't like them, so that you can join all of the intense discussions about them. So real quick, we'll start out with the OG, the original gangster here, which is SH, which is the Bourne shell. And so if you've ever seen a shell script, it ends in the .sh line ending, but it is the original Unix shell. It's the original program that interprets commands in Unix. And it is the default shell in Unix, or at least in, I think in newer versions of Unix, it's also the next shell that we're going to talk about. But it's been for a long time the default shell in Unix. They may have changed a bit. She-Boss, thank you so much for another gifted sub, always with the support. Pretty dope. Pylang, you gotta make sure you give the She-Boss some love for that. Thank you very much. Rima, hello, how are you doing? You're a little bit late, but not too late at all. We haven't even got hands on keyboard yet. We're just still going through some slides. So hop in with those. Do you need a shell to run a CLI program or just a terminal? So that terminal that you are talking about, it has, yes, it will have a shell running on it. It will be running a shell. Linux, when it boots up, will kick off a shell. There will be a default shell that is installed to be able to, the terminal will be running a shell to be able to interpret your commands for some input. So yes, you do need one of these for them to run. Yes, the terminal connects to shell or runs like a banner. It's a program. It's a process that is running. So let's see. So SH, that is the OG, that is the original Unix shell. It is available on the system for you to use if you would like to use this. It's gonna come on whatever system that you check out. So this, you know, if that was the OG, this is Beyonce. This is like, you know, like everyone, you know, love it or hate it, everyone knows Beyonce is great, whether you like her or you hate her. You hate her music, you know, you're like, hey, Beyonce, great entertainer, done a lot of cool things, you know. I may not like her music, I may not like the way she sings, I may not like the way she dances, but I know she's great. I know Bash is great. It's been around for a while. People has become the kind of de facto popular shell in Linux, and I believe in a lot of modern versions of Unix, but it stands for the Born Again shell. So the first one was the Born shell. This is the Born Again shell. All right, Bash, that's what the A is. So we went from SH to the Born Again shell. And like I said, it's the most popular shell in modern Linux machines. And with it brought a number of really cool features that people really liked. And like I said, I'll give you a link inside of the Waddle Notion stuff on where you can go to find out what some of these things are. Some of them are auto completion. Some of them are different ways to do mathematic calculations via the CLI. Like it did add a number of features, kind of like a programming language. The way that it interprets your stuff, it gave you a lot of tools, it gave you a lot of features. It is good. So I don't really know anyone who still uses SH unless you are trying to do some specific things in really complex scripting things sometimes, but Bash is generally the default go-to thing that you want to do. Yes, Bash is equal to Beyonce. Bash is Beyonce's shell. You know, she's I mean, Beyonce is just like everywhere. Like she's like everyone knows who Beyonce is. Everyone's heard Beyonce's music. Again, like I said, whether you like it or not, everyone knows about Beyonce's life a little bit. Like that's kind of how Bash is. Like everyone's kind of familiar with it. This is the one that you're gonna see. This is the one that you're gonna hear pretty much everywhere. So Bash is kind of, you know, just super popular as Beyonce is. You know, I think this is the wrong. I don't know why this is here. This was supposed to go on a different slide. I think I pasted this on the wrong slide. But YGBSM, thank you for the 3rd month. Good, you know, just the best. Good to have you for another month. Don't know why you would want to stick around this long, but I'm glad you are here. You make the community great. I think SH is now a link to Bash. It might be. It actually might be a link to Bash now. That would make sense. I think that the features that were added in Bash are almost all great. Most Docker containers use SH, right? Or is that a different shell? It's the same thing. Yeah, I think so. And I think in that case, and so I do think it is a, containers will come with both SH, and usually most of them will come with Bash, but they'll definitely come with SH. They do not all come with Bash, but they will all come with SH for sure. What shows you syntax and config file structure almost like Bash syntax? Yep, I agree. And so the last one, there are many shells first. Before we start the shell battle, before we start the shell war, this is the last of the shells that we're about to talk about. You know, not because it is the most amazing, not because any of that, but we have to talk about it because of the last line that's here. But ZSH is a fancy schmancy shell for modern machines, and it's developed on top of Bash. It is the goal of this was to make a modern shell that had a lot of modern features and creature comforts for the way that we work, the way that people work, nowadays. And it has some good features that I agree with, and it has some features that I just really don't agree with. But it's becoming more ubiquitous. It is currently the default shell on macOS. If you buy a new Mac, it will have ZSH as the default shell. I can show you how to check your shell in a little bit, because your Mac, if you had an older Mac, through certain updates and things, people's have changed or stayed the same. So everyone's is not on ZSH, but it is the default shell of Mac OS now. If you were to, blow away your OS and reinstall your Mac OS, it would have ZSH as the default shell on it. And that's the reason I have to bring it up. That is the reason why it's gaining. It was already pretty popular, but it's gaining pretty extreme popularity now, because again, it does have some great creature comforts, but as someone who comes from a pretty traditional Linux background, there's a lot in there that I do not agree with, and you're gonna see some of that tonight. I'll show you some of those things, and in doing that, I'm hopefully just starting to show you, like, some people are like, yo, I don't care about these tools. Like, I just want to learn how to use them, and I'll use them how I want to use them. And I felt that way for a long time, but you'll start to become more and more opinionated about these things as you start to have to use them to solve problems. And I think showing you my qualms with these things, do not take them on as your qualms, but I think it'll start to show you how, when you're evaluating technologies, you can start to really discover differences that you may or may not like, and those things make for great conversation in interviews. So what I do want you to do is, whether you care about the problems that I say I have with the ZSH tonight or not, it might be good conversation starters to it might be a good conversation starter in an interview, like, hey, like, I know a little bit about shells, and I know that ZSH is, the default on Mac OS, and I don't like that because of these reasons. And you can take my reasons and throw them out there if you like it. It might make you sound smart, but being able to talk about the things that the comparisons, your likes and dislikes between different tools and services are great things to know how to do for an interview. I think ZSH is built on KSH and not on top of Bash. I'm pretty sure ZSH, so we'll check it out. Simple Google search is what is ZSH built on? Let's see. ZSH, so-called Z shell, extended. It's an extended version. So these are the type of things I've come across. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm understanding that wrong. Plenty of new features. Since it's based on the same shell as Bash, many of the features are the same. Those things I came across. I'm completely open. I don't like. If it's not, please point me in the right direction. I'm only trying to, it means nothing to me whether or not I'm right about this. But yeah, I come across things like this that said that it was built on top of Bash. Let's see, maybe I can find another one. I don't know, not that serious, but if we find any definitive things, certainly let me know. Okay. Let's go with, that's it for shells. And so, like I said, Bash is going to be what's probably installed for you by default if you install Linux. If you're using WSL, Bash is probably installed by default. It is installed by default. If you have an older MacBook Pro, like before the last year or so, you probably have Bash installed by default, and I'll give you a command right now to figure out what that is. And the way that you can do that is echo $, as a shell. I think shell will do it. And if you do echo $, space $, shell in all capital letters. It may not be set on everyone's system, so you may not get any output, but I'm pretty sure most of you should get some output. And if I was using bash, it would look a little bit differently. And so I just switched to bash, and I do $ shell again. And oh, never mind, that's not going to change it because it's just going to tell what my default shell is. That was dumb, actually, but yes, that will tell you what your default shell is. So if you're a Mac in particular, that's really who I'm telling to do this. Everyone else, I can almost guarantee you are using bash unless you changed it. I'm using ZSH on this computer, and I'll tell you why when we get there. But I do not prefer ZSH. I do prefer bash. I do. I wish they had a 14-inch MacBook Pro. 16 is too big. I agree. I think 14-inch MacBook Pro would be perfect. The 16-inch one is rather large. I heard they were planning on making one, but I don't know what happened. I was scared for the switch to ARM, but it's going to make CI/CD experience that much more marketable. Yeah, I don't really mind their switch to ARM. My only concern about their switch to ARM is this is going to further divide developers, and I like choice, and I think there's just going to be it's going to be harder for companies to support applications on both Mac and Windows. And I don't know, I think there's going to be a split in where companies decide to go and what you have access to on Windows and what you have access to on Mac. And it's not just for my own personal gains, it's for people on Mac as well. Yeah, I think a lot of things are going to be problematic. I think people who were able to boot into people who needed Windows and would dual boot their Macs in a boot camp probably will no longer be able to do that in Windows, or it will take a while for that to work. But I don't know. We'll see. We will see. Who knows? What's going to happen to Adobe after Mac is ARM? It's a great question. It really is a great question. It has some serious implications for the industry. It says Ben ZSH. Hey, there you go. You are using ZSH. Your shell is ZSH. You're going to work for all ARM x86. Yeah, I mean, it is pretty amazing. They're going back. But okay. After shells is done, now we are finally getting into the meat and potatoes of tonight. After almost an entire hour, we're getting into the real meat and potatoes of tonight, and learning some real staunch Linux topics. And we're about to get hands on keyboard, which is really nice. We'll talk about the path variable in a little bit. We're gonna talk about file pathing first. The path variable is rather confusing to people, but we'll talk about the path variable. Lots of words, and that should let you know that this topic is complicated. It's not complicated, but it is a very important topic that you need to understand if you're gonna be able to work with Linux effectively. Yeah, and so takes a little bit of time to get comfortable with this, but it is very important in Linux. This usually people understand the topic, but for it to just be there in the back of your head, I see it takes people a little while to kind of get there. So don't sweat it if you don't know, but very important. Put a star by these things because these things are very important. Absolute file pathing. And so that kind of starts down here, but let's talk about file pathing. Let's talk about file paths in Linux. So we said the directory, the files, the file system and directories for Linux machine is just a bunch of files, folders, but that it's a hierarchy. It's a folder structure. It's a tree. Linux directories have a tree structure. You can follow that tree to get to any file or directory that you would like to get to. All right, so because they're all files, there's a path to any directory, to any file that's on that system. There are two different types of file pathing, and the first one is absolute file pathing. Absolute, perfect word for this, absolute file pathing, but it is the full path. So the word absolute and the word full, they're related. I wouldn't say they're synonymous, but they're related. They're kind of complete. But absolute file pathing is the full path necessary to get from the root of the file system tree. So we talked about what the root is. it's slash. Remember, whenever you hear the word root, you should probably, or whenever you hear the word root in terms of file system, you should be thinking about that /. But from the root of the file system tree to the file or directory that you desire. So it is the path from the root, from slash, all the way to the file or directory that you're trying to get to, or process that you're trying to get to. That is what the absolute file path is. The full path from the root. And the root on every Linux system is slash. So that's very important. This means that every absolute file path must begin with slash. So if you see a path to a file or directory and it starts with a slash, that means it's an absolute file path. You know immediately if it starts with a slash, it is an absolute file path, and it is the path to that file from the root of the computer, from the very start. You can't go, from the very root, the earliest place you can go, all the way to the file. If you see the slash, it's from there. Okay, that is an absolute file path from the root of the system all the way to the directory that you desire. It follows that tree. It's the path following that tree to get to your file or directory, and you're going to use this path to reference files, to say, hey, I want to open up this file, and you have to tell the computer where that file path is. And you've seen these things in Windows. You've seen these things before. You might see like a C:// and then users and your name and documents, and your file path in Windows would be that. This is the same thing, but it just follows that Linux directory tree. So that's an absolute file path from the very beginning. The other type of file pathing is relative file pathing. And I can't tell you how many times these two things mess people up and cause applications not to work just because they were trying to specify a file or reference a file or directory, and they used the wrong thing. But relative file pathing, it's the same path. It's the path to get to a file or directory, the file or directory that you desire, but it's relative to where you currently are. And you don't really understand location yet, but we'll talk about that. But at different times, you can be at different places on that directory tree. You can be in a certain directory, and a relative file path tells you where a file or directory or binary or whatever is relative to where you currently are, rather than from the root of the file system. So this might be something like, if you got directions, let's say you were trying to go to the store, and the store was 30 minutes away, and your house is the root of the file system. Your house is, it's slash. And you put it in Google Maps, and it tells you all the steps to get from your house to the store. Maybe there's 10 steps on there. But what if you made a stop along the way? Let's say, I stopped at I want to get some food, and I stopped at, number 6. So I have 4 more steps to go, and I stop at number 6. If I go to look up my directions again, it's not going to tell me, if I still want to get to the store, it's not going to tell me the directions from my house to get to the store. It's going to tell me the directions from where I currently am to get to the store. And so that's kind of how relative versus absolute, it's always in reference to the root of the file system. So it always starts at slash, and it's every jump you need to make across that file tree to get to your location. And relative is the same thing, but it's not from the root. It is from where you currently are to the place that you want to be. But since absolute file paths begin with slash, that means that relative file paths, I need to change this here, I messed this up. Relative paths do not begin with a slash. And this is going to make way more sense once we get hands on in a second. But so see how this starts with no slash. And we would need to be in the directory that had documents next in the tree to be able to get here. So it can be it takes a little while to get to this, but there's two options: absolute file pathing, where you're always going to start from the root of the system, which is slash, or relative file pathing, where you're going to reference the file relative to where you currently are. And that means you do not begin with a slash. And that's going to make a little more sense soon. CM, welcome to the channel. CM Griffin, How you doing tonight? Shout out to you. Thank you so much for the raiders. Hello, CM's raid party. Good to have you. CM is we've raided CM before. Does some pretty dope stream, builds some pretty cool stuff. If you ever want to just go to a chill stream and kind of see how some cool things are built some cool tools. And you work with a lot of different languages and like frameworks and stuff. I always get on there, I'm like, dang, you're working with some other cool stuff. So welcome, good to have you. Thank you so much for the raid. Hopefully you all want to learn a little bit about Linux file pathing or the basics of Linux command line navigation. So yeah. But yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing pretty darn good. Is it storming? It's not storming, which is good. This is like the first time in a long time it's not storming, but yeah, it's hot. It's very warm here in Baltimore right now. It's been like, high 90s, and that's gross. It's been like real humid as well because of all the storms. But absolute versus relative, it will take time to get. It will make more sense once we dive in a little bit deeper. Okay, this is where it'll make sense. Any questions so far about file pathing? So absolute file paths always start from the root of the system. Relative file paths do not. They start relative to where you are, and they're a way to either reference or get to a place on the system, on that directory tree, on that hierarchy. Jack of a lot of trades, master of none. Mr. Griffin, that is me as well. It really is like the more and more I touch, I'm like, man, like all these things I was starting to get really good at, I'm no longer, I'm just okay at, but I'm familiar with a lot. But hey, there's a place in the world for people like us. All right. Now, finally, what you've all been waiting for. CLI navigation. Let's actually get hands-on now, and let's click through and do some cool stuff. So pull up your Linux installations, pull up your VMs. If you're on Mac, pull up your terminal. Terminal is the application that you're going to use to interface with the command line. If you have other cool application instead of terminal, maybe you have iTerm or something, great. Windows, whatever, that you're using, hop into it right now, because we are going to start doing that. And this is the slide that I said would come up again. Remember, commands over clicking. We're not doing anything fancy here. This is not special. I want to pull back some of the intimidation factor here. We're not doing anything crazy. We are simply navigating our computer, and I spelled our wrong. We're simply navigating our computer with commands rather than a mouse. That is all we're going to be doing tonight. That's all it is. It's not anything different than that. So you're just going to be issuing commands to your computer. Okay, open it up. I'm going to open mine up down here so we can get to it. I'm going to give you lots of control pluses so that it's large. Like I said, I'm using ZSH, and I'm going to tell you when I do something that may be different in Bash. I will tell you. And there won't be almost anything tonight that's different. I don't think there's gonna be anything at all. You're gonna learn about this little prompt thing over here. Yours will not look like this. That is okay. Yours will probably have a $sign by it if you are using Bash. ZSH is a little bit different. Actually, I think ZSH on Mac, they try to keep it the same. So yes, it'll probably have a little prompt here, but it's okay. Everyone's might be different. It might have your name, your computer name, whatever. But don't sweat it. Before, is it recommended to use ZSH or can you just use the Mac terminal? So the terminal in Mac, that's what you should be using, and that's probably running ZSH. So just use the terminal in Mac. It doesn't really matter the shell tonight, but yes, do just use the terminal in Mac. What OS do we use? This is a Linux course, so if you're on Mac, you're fine with Mac. You can just open up your terminal. If not, you need to have some type of Linux installation. There are some free things online. There's like Linux terminals online that you may be able to hop into really quick, like one of these or something. I think if you sign in, you can do this if you want to follow along, but you need to be in some type of Linux file system. I guess you could probably do it in Unix as well. Mac is a Unix-like operating system, but pretty simple. Okay, So if you want to navigate, we're talking about command line navigation tonight. We're talking about how do we get around, how do we move around the operating system? How do we move around the file system? And I think the first step that you need to do before you start moving anywhere is you need to orient yourself. You need to be able to find out where you are. And tonight, this is what we're going to start doing. We need to find our current location in the directory tree. The Linux file system is a directory tree, and we need to find out where we are. So one, just to show you first, I'm going to open up this files thing here. And in this files thing here, this might be too small, but if I go to home, and I think I can go back one, kind of go back from home, it won't let me open up past here, but there is a directory tree here. I know I can go before this. How do I get to... I don't want to create a new folder. I feel like I can go backwards one. Does Linux not allow you to do this? Or does the new Ubuntu not allow you to do this? All right, no big deal. I wanted to show it to you in here first, to show you all those directories that we saw in the directory tree before. But yes, we are. At any given time, you are somewhere on the system. You're somewhere on the system. Slash is the earliest place that you could be, but you're somewhere on the system. And the way that you find out where you are on the system is you type in pwd. This command here stands for present working directory. It stands for what's my present working directory. And when you hit it, you will get a file path of where you currently are in the system hierarchy. Okay. Take a look at that path. What do we just learn about Linux file paths? What kind of path is this right here? Is it showing me? It says /home/mastermind. Where what kind of good time to introduce which or which? Yeah, we can definitely do which as well. But what kind of file path is this right here? You know, think about it a little bit. Yep. Perfect, Coons. It is an absolute file path. How do we know that it's an absolute file path? It's because it begins with a slash. So it's the full location to this directory from the root of the system, and this finds out where we are. There is no tilde/. So for some people, it might say tilde. It might show a tilde there. I think you have to set it up to do that, though. Pretty sure you have to actively set it up to do that. So this just tells you where your present working directory is. So this means I am currently in a directory called Mastermind. That is where I currently am right now. And that this directory is located at /home/mastermind. So there's a home directory above me in the hierarchy. So Mastermind is inside of that home directory. The Mastermind directory is inside of the home directory, and so that's where I currently am. And now I know where I am, and that's what you're going to use to be able to find that. Find your current location in the directory tree, pwd. And again, these commands are here to copy and paste if you forget what they are. There's a few of them here. I didn't put them all in here, but put a couple of them inside of the Notion file. Okay. Now that we know where we are, how do we see what is currently around us? We need to look around. This is navigation. We know where we are now. You know, we've read the stars, but we need to look around us and see what's around so that we know where we can go next. And the way that we do that is with the ls command, which I think just stands for list. But ls, and what this is going to do is it is going to list the files and the directories that exist at my current location. And what this tells us is where we can actually go from here, or what we can do, or what we have access to. So inside of this folder, I'm in /home/mastermind. This is actually my user's home folder. This is people will always, you'll see a lot of people will talk about home a lot, the home directory a lot. Home directory is always at /home/username. And if we actually go back here to the hierarchy of the system, and we look over here, we have /home as users home directories. I'm the mastermind user on my computer right now, and my home directory exists within inside of this home folder. If we were to make other users on the system, it will put their directories here as well, and this is where their files and things could be saved. Yeah, but ls allows you to see what is here with you, and it also shows you where you can go. So these things that are here, this means that they are basically children of my current location, and these are the next places I can go in the directory structure. Now, right now, you are unable to know what things are directories and what things aren't. Yours probably doesn't have any colors either. It might not even have any bolding or anything like that. It's probably pretty clean, just probably white and black. But on mine, these dark blue ones, these are all folders right here. And this is, I can now move into these folders because of my current location. And this is where things get a little bit complicated. But I just want to show ls shows you what's there and where you can go. Now take a look at this. I did an ls right here in my home directory. If I open up files and I put these side by side, take a look at the things that are here. I'm on my home directory in the file system as well, in the, as far as the GUI is concerned. But look at what's in here. Let me do an ls again so it's a little cleaner. Look at this. I have a desktop folder, and look at right here. I have a desktop folder and a documents folder, and right here I have a documents folder. I have a downloads folder, and I have a Firefox wallpaper.png, and look at that. I have a Firefox wallpaper, and I have a Go directory, and a music directory, and a pictures directory. So this current location where I currently am, so pwd/home/mastermind is my home directory. And as far as my computer is concerned, it's the home directory that is displayed here. So I'm in the exact same place. So whatever I do here, or whatever I do here will also show here, because I'm now interacting with the same pieces of my computer using two different methods of interfacing. And so because from here, from the home directory here, I can only go into these folders. And so if I want to go into documents, I will go into documents. We'll get into all the hidden folders and stuff as well, but I can go into my documents here. And so you might say, all right, well, from the command line, how do I traverse the tree? How do I go into a folder that's, that I can get to from where I currently am? And the way that you do that is you need to move. You do that with the CD command. So we know where we are. We figured out how to find out where we are with the pwd command. So that tells us where our present working directory is. We learned what's around us. We use the ls command to see what's in our current location. We get to list the things that are in our current location. And to move into a new directory, we're gonna cd, which is change directory. So if I wanna move from my current location into the documents directory, I do cd and the name of the directory I want to CD into, which is documents. And this will change, and your prompt will probably change. Everyone's will not, but it'll likely change. And now it didn't tell me anything. I didn't get any feedback, but if I want to confirm that I did what I wanted to do, how do we find out where we are? Let's use the commands that we know. We'll type in the pwd command. And now it says my new location is at /home/mastermind/documents. So I'm in a brand new place. And if I click on the documents, I can see the stuff that exists in here. And how do we see what is currently in this location? We do it in ls. And these are the things that are currently at the location that I'm at. And you can see that these things match up. Apps, AWS keys, decoded, pipelines. These are all here. So I'm in the exact same place. All right, so I've moved into this directory essentially, which is really cool. Now, this is where I want you to, hopefully this is going to help identify the absolute file pathing versus the relative file pathing. All right, I moved into documents. All right, I was in the home folder and I moved into documents. If I wanted to move into downloads. Let's say I wanted to move into this downloads folder from where I currently am. So let's clear this real quick. By doing ls, I don't see downloads here. So downloads is not available to me in the current file tree. It's not immediately accessible. So I can't do something like this. I cannot go cd downloads. I can't do that. It says no such file or directory because my current location doesn't know anything about the downloads directory. For us to say that we want to move into the directory, to the downloads directory, we have to specify the correct place that it is on the system. And there are always two ways to do it. The two ways that you can do it are: one, you can use the absolute file path, or two, you can use the relative file path. And those are going to be different file paths. They're going to be different file paths. So the way that I would do it using the absolute file path is, I know this, but you probably don't know this. But remember where that home directory was? It was in /home/mastermind. So the full path to the downloads directory is cd/home/mastermind. And so that puts me here, and then it's in downloads. And so this is the full location. This is the full file path from the root of the system into the downloads folder. And if I hit enter, now I'm actually in the downloads folder. It didn't give me an error like it gave me up here. It actually let me go there, and I can confirm that. pwd, I get home mastermind downloads, and we can confirm that we were in the right directory. I'll click into downloads. I'll do an ls here. Look at the stuff that's here. HTML5 fractal, that's right here, and Chrome is here. The Firefox wallpaper is here, and newcreds.csv is here. So I'm in the right place. That was, I used the absolute file path to get here. Now, I think that makes sense to a lot of people. People say, all right, cool, I didn't know where downloads was, but I understand that you use the full path from the root of the system. Okay, but how do I get to it if I'm in, well, now you're gonna, I'm showing you too much now. But not if I do it this way. /documents. Okay, so I'm back in the documents directory. How do I get to it from here? If I do an ls and this is not here, downloads folder is not here. The way that I do this is I can do this using the relative file path, but to do this, I need to know one other thing first, and that's this piece, cd ... And this means nothing. I just spelled it out phonetically. It's cd ... But sometimes we need to go backwards or up in the directory hierarchy. And the way that you do that is with two periods. You do cd ... and that is a reference to go up a level, to go backwards, basically a level. So from my current location, I can go back one. And if I go back one directory, this will put me in my home directory. The directory that's one behind me is my home directory. How do I know that? If you type in pwd, I'm in home mastermind documents. If I go back one directory, I'll be in mastermind, and that's this directory right here. So if I go back one, I'll be in mastermind. And then I know that inside of the mastermind directory is where the downloads folder lives. So if I did cd ... to go backwards one, and then type in downloads, it will let me do it. And I do a pwd, and now I'm in the downloads directory. This is a relative file path. I gave it the path relative to my current location. My current location was in documents. The directions to get to downloads were to say, hey, go backwards one and then go up the downloads tree. That's the path that I needed to take to get there. And so these get a lot longer than this, but that's the general premise. I could have used either one. Both are fine, but absolute file paths, again, start with / and probably are going to have more folders in them. Or I can do the relative file path there. I know it's confusing. It takes a while to get. You just need to be aware of the concept, and as we learn more, it'll start to make a little more sense. Where all the hidden file, we were talking about that. We'll talk about a single dot as well in a little bit. Archwiki turned 15 today. That's pretty cool. A plus AWS creds name. Oh yeah, you know, gotta have, you know, new creds. Every time you download a new one, gotta be the newest of creds. I will try that. I'll try to CSV. I'll try to CD into that. That's a good one actually. So we are in. Oh, sorry. We're in this folder now. You don't, like I said, you haven't learned this yet. You don't know in here what's a file and what's a directory yet. But one thing that's not a directory is this new creds.csv file. It is a file, not a directory. What happens if I try to CD into a file? New creds.csv. It says, hey, you are unable to change into that directory because it's not a directory. This file type is not directory, so you cannot change into it. Makes perfect sense. It is a file. It is not a directory. So that is what happens when you do that. And now what you can do is, yes. So we learned how to move forward or change directory from our current location. If you always use the absolute file path, you never need to use that dot to be honest. But the dot's super important. Like, you're gonna need to use the dot. But you can also get around using it by always using the absolute file path if you'd like. Nobody does that. You need to know this cd dot. All right. So dot says go back one. There is, excuse me, there is a way to reference the current location. And the way that you reference the current location is with a single dot. And so let's say I wanted to do something, I could actually, what's in here? So there is a folder in here called Chrome, and I could CD into this Chrome folder. And now I'm in Chrome and there's some other stuff in here. But I don't, so yes, I CD'd into there using, notice when I CD into Chrome, I'm not using an absolute path. This is a path, and it is a relative path relative to where I am now. The next step is Chrome. But you can also do something like this to do a dot slash, and it will still work. The dot says right here, it's saying, hey, this location that I'm at right now is where I'm starting from. So this doesn't start with a slash, it starts with a dot. And so it says dot slash Chrome. So this is confusing to a lot of people. So you don't need to do this. You don't need to do this. The dot slash actually has a number of other implications. A number of other implications, but yeah, you don't need to do that. Why would you do cd slash Chrome versus cd Chrome? So you could not do, I could not do this. That doesn't work. Why doesn't this work? Can anyone take a quick shot on why a simple slash would not work? It says, hey, no such file or directory slash Chrome. I'm in cd slash Chrome. So there are, why would you want to do it? Some people like to be explicit. I usually only see the dot slash in scripts to be explicit about where things are. Sometimes the way that you're doing things and the way that Linux is interpreting what you're doing because of the actions you're taking, it can get a little bit weird to kind of throw in that relative file path without the dot slash. But you know, you don't need to do the dot slash. It's very seldom you'll ever need to do that. Yeah, just don't use it right now. I can't. To a point where I can't even think of I've seen it be used. I've needed it before, but I can't really think of it. It is used a lot more for files, and it's used to execute. You can use it to execute certain files. You know, if they have the right permissions and things, it's used for execution of files. Yeah, you don't really need to do it. It's just it's a method you can use. So it does not work because, again, that slash, as soon as that slash is there first, it is the file system is starting to look at the root of the computer, and there is no Chrome. There's no Chrome at the root of the computer. And actually I can show you what is at the root. All right, don't these things look a little bit like what we saw before? And I'll do it a little whoops. Don't these things look a little like what we saw before? Boot and dev and Etsy and home. These are the things that exist at slash and opt and proc and mount and sbin and sys and temp and user. And so there is no Chrome here because we started with slash. There's no Chrome in this list right here. And that is why a slash Chrome wouldn't work. But yeah, I can't think of any good reason to use a dot slash for a directory, to be 100% honest. Cool, so let me get out of here. And to go backwards one, I would want to do a CD. And so as you're trying to learn these things, again, get comfortable doing this. Say, hey, I want to know where I am, PWD. I know where I am, CD dot dot. I think I know where I am, PWD. I know exactly where I am. And doing ls to see where, see what's here. There's also other great commands you can use. Don't use these yet. There are commands like tree, which you might not have available by default. That sucks. But tree is a really good command to kind of see the directory structure of where you currently are, and afterwards is kind of nice. It's a pretty nice command. But yes, it is in red. That's a ZSH thing. But yeah, that's the ZSH syntax highlighting for you. Let's see. Adding dot slash becomes a twitch for anyone who has messed up an RM. That is, that's pretty true. That's pretty true. Okay. I don't want to get too far ahead of where we are. So real quick, we'll do this piece real quick. So adding to the hierarchy. Sometimes you want to add to the hierarchy. So, the folders that are here are great, but you want to add your own folders. This is a computer. It's not some special system that you don't want to mess with. Inside of your documents, folder, you may want to add a folder for projects or something. You may want to put a projects folder here, and you can do that pretty easily from the GUI. I think we all know how to right click, new folder, add a projects directory. And so let's move into our documents folder. And if we do all right, I'm gonna tell you what LL is in a second. I'm gonna try to type what we know, not go too far too fast. There's a projects folder here now. How do you do that from the command line? The way that you do that command line, the way that you extend this hierarchy, the way that you add a directory is to use the mkdir command, mkdir. And this is the only directory command we're going to learn tonight, and only because I think it's going to allow you to play with the hierarchy a little bit, and to create a directory, change into it, and to help you start to understand how the structure works a little bit. So mkdir and the name of the directory will create a directory. So where I currently am, if I do it mkdir, and we can call it mastermind, all capital letters, and I hit enter, I type in ls, I now have a new directory here, and we can confirm that. Look at this. I have a directory here called mastermind. It is empty. It creates an empty directory. So mkdir is the command that you're going to use to create a new directory. You're adding a directory to that structure that now becomes a new path on the system that you can get to. So now that we created that, how do we get into it? So we know it's right here, and we can get into it by just CDing into it. So we're changing into mastermind. And if I do an ls, there's nothing inside of here. It's an empty folder. I do an ls, I get 0 output. There is nothing here for me. So you can do that as many times as you want. You can create all kinds of folders. Be careful about where you are. There are some places that will not let you create folders. Like if I CD to slash, do not right now, just don't CD in a slash at all. Don't do this. If you do this, make sure you just type in, if you ever get to where you don't want to be, type in CD and hit enter. If you type in CD and just hit enter with nothing else, it will always take you back home. So if you're ever confused about where you are, if you're ever lost and you don't know, you can't figure out the path to get back to where you were, simply, you know, I can go all the way back. I can go cd slash var. Oh, well, let me go there. Let me go into downloads. Not back. Let's go into downloads, Chrome, and Chrome has some stuff, and so extensions. All right, I'm a bunch of places in. Look at this location that I'm currently at. Much longer than we've seen before. I'm very far into it. You know, pretty scary. It's like, oh man, this is nuts. Like I don't know how to get back to where I was. Like, how did I get here? I don't know where to go. If you ever just want to get back to your home directory, just type in cd, hit enter. It takes you all the way back. You can also type in cd tilde. That's what this little tilde is. It's a representation. It is a shortcut for your home directory. So whoever user you're logged in as, it will reference a different directory. So this is a really cool thing to know. But yeah, cd is the same thing as this. It will take you right back to your home directory, no matter where you are, which is super nice. All right, can you create 2 directories in one command like mkdir new folder? Yes, you can, but we need to learn something else before we do that. But we can do that. We can go into documents and inside of mastermind, cd mastermind, and in here I'll go ahead, I'll make 2 new directories. I'll make the new directory, I'll make a directory 1 2, and this is actually going to fail. And it says, hey, cannot create directory 1 2. There is a way to do this. We don't know how to do it yet. We're going to learn how to do it in a second. But I could do this. I could go backwards 1 and do something like this: mkdir mastermind 1, and then mkdir mastermind 1 2. The directories, all the directories have to be, all the directories before the ones you're creating have to be there for it to work. So that works, but I'll show you how to do it in one thing. And Sheboss threw it out there for you, this -p, but you do not know what that means yet. All right, so what we'll do here is real quick, tab completion. This is not important. It's something I want you to know about. It will take you months, if not years, to get comfortable using this. But tab completion is something that's really cool. It is really nice. You've seen me do it tonight, but didn't know what was happening. You might have thought I was typing very rapidly, but I was not at all. I'm a slow typist, and you saw me actually go from when we were in the documents folder, or well, actually watch this. All right, you see that? You see how fast, you know, I typed in a few letters. You know, I don't type that fast. You know, and then we went into Chrome, and then we went, and I'm just like, I'm not typing all this stuff out. And you know, the reason it's able to quickly do that is something called tab completion. This is a feature of the shells that you're using. This is some of the features that have been added. Again, I don't think this was a feature in SH, but it was in Bash. It's in ZSH. It's a really cool feature that as you get more and more comfortable with the command line, it will just, it makes your life so much easier. What tab completion does is, Linux is smart, and what tab completion does is it will complete, because your file path has to be, you know, exactly what exists. It can't be anything else. If you start to match something in a directory and hit tab, it will do its best to complete the one that makes the most sense. And this is the reason, right now is the reason why one of the reasons why I dislike the ZSH, and I'm going to show you some differences really quick. So what does that mean? Whoa. Oh, what I'm dying over here. Okay, so let me just cd back to home. All right, ignore all this. I'll clear this. Now, look at what's in this directory. If I want to move into a directory, one of these, there is only one directory here that starts with an M. So if I try to cd and type in capital M and I hit tab, it completes the word music because it's the only option that exists from where I currently am on the system. It's the only thing in the directory tree that I can move into. So it says, hey, I know you must be talking about this. So it works. This is, yeah, this is not a ZSH feature. This is a Bash feature. Great, so that works. And I'm gonna actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna hop into bash as well, because I want to show you guys the differences here of these two things. Let me go into the same place. If I do CD, capital M, and I hit tab, this is bash right here. It does in fact switch into my music directory. Same thing over here. I can switch into music directory. And I'm gonna go back one. ZSH, I do not agree with you. I do not think ZSH is better than bash. I think it's worse. I think you're trolling me. I know you're trolling me. You're trolling me. Okay. So here is where I'm gonna teach you this in bash first, because this is where ZSH really gives me angst. Oh yeah, the color commands, yeah it is. Where ZSH really causes me all kinds of heartache. Linux, remember this, Linux is, because it's only files, it's all files, it is case sensitive. Case matters in Linux. A file that is hello world.py like this, if I made another file called hello-world.py, these are two different files. They are not the same file at all. These, this matters. If I had two directories, capitalization matters. It is a case sensitive file system. Okay, tab completion. Let's go to bash really quick. If I do an ls, I have a couple directories here that start with the letter D. So you might say, how does that work? So I'll type in CD and I'll type in the letter D. And I'll hit tab. If I hit tab, nothing comes up. Nothing comes up. So nobody type in. Anyone who's learning Linux, guys, don't type in ARM. If anyone ever tells you to type in anything that I didn't tell you to type in, don't type it in. Don't type in ARM-RF start. Don't type in any of that stuff ever. It'll break your stuff. People will always try to troll you with it. Don't do it. Don't do it. All right. So I typed in CD and I typed in capital D. And I hit tab. Well, it worked that time because it didn't work. But if I do CD and I hit tab once, nothing happens. And nothing happens because there are many options to complete. Like it doesn't know what to do. So if you hit tab twice, if you hit it a second time, it'll give you all of the options that you have available to you to tab complete. And so I have desktop, documents, and downloads. So now I have to give the tab completion enough information to have a single option to complete to. So if I give it an E, it will know that desktop has to be the only option. So if I have to give it an E and hit tab, it will auto complete to desktop. But if I hit O and hit tab, nothing will happen. Why won't anything happen? Because it's not sure what to choose between here. But if I hit it again, it'll give me my other options. And if I give it another one, if I give it the W and hit tab, it will do downloads. If I go back and give it a C, it will do documents. So you need to give it enough to where it only has one option to complete. And so that's how tab completion works. Linux is case sensitive. Linux is case sensitive. If I were to do CD lowercase d and hit tab a million times, nothing happens. Nothing happens at all. This is bash. This is the born again shell. This is how it's supposed to be, because there aren't any files. There are not any directories here that start with a lowercase d. Cool, nothing happens. Can't tab complete. Now we're in ZSH. We're in ZSH, and check this out. Same thing. If I do D, I hit tab once, it gives me some options. Great. I do O, hit tab again, it gives me some options. Great. Excellent. Documents. There we go. But look at ZSH. Look how whack ZSH is. CD, lowercase d, tab. It uppercases it for me. And that is not good. Even like it's not good for a number of reasons. I think it's not good because it does not enforce to you the structure of Unix and Linux, and I think that's problematic when you are building applications and really understanding that these things matter. Your apps will not automatically fix those things for you at all. It will not automatically fix them for you. Yes, there is a way to change this and fix this behavior, but why do I need to do that when I can just use bash 100%? But yeah, But I don't like it because of that. Like even if I tried to like I tried to cat oh, that's pretty cool actually. Well, that actually makes a lot of sense. That it would tab complete if I actually put in the right thing, but it's all good. That's cool. All good. It's definitely a rite of passage. It's a rite of passage to try it. Most Linux stuff won't let you break it. If you have a VM, you know, I think it might be valuable if you have a VM you want to throw away to try it out to see if it'll let you do it. But people will often tell you to rm-rf stuff. Don't do it right now. I don't want you to break everything that you're doing right now, because it can put you in a world of hurt. But yeah, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It's just cool loop. This will sometimes differ from bash when writing bash code, which isn't good. Yeah, but you can also explicitly tell it to execute with your bash code, so it's very interesting. So they do operate a little bit differently. But yeah, but that's tab completion. You do not need to be using tab completion day one. It's muscle memory for a lot of us after a certain amount of time. But I want you to be aware of it, because you'll see people typing really fast and you'll be like, man, they know what they're doing. No, we are tabbing. We are hitting that tab key. Our tab keys are getting a workout. It also works with commands as well. A lot of your commands, it'll do like, you can do it for any commands you have available. If I wanted to use netcat or, you know, yeah, it allows you to do it for commands as well. Like for ls, you can, if you just hit tab a couple times, I can see all the things that are available, you know, and you don't really want to tab complete ls because it's 2 characters, which is really weird. People who love ZSH are definitely Mac lovers. I agree, you know. I mean, again, I don't think there's anything wrong with Mac, or I don't hate ZSH. I really don't. I just think there are some things that they do which are problematic. They try to, I think there are too many creature comforts. I think there are too many things that can mask some problems for you, but that's all. That's, you know, that's all. I'm not used to it at all. I am not. Okay, let's keep going real quick to get through these last 2 concepts. 8:43 perfect. We'll finish up right on time. All right, some CLI concepts really quick that I want you to know about. You'll get some of these CLI concepts almost every night. I can't throw them all at you at once. I need to give them to you in a little bit of doses because it can be pretty intense. So CLI concepts. The first one are going to be command flags or arguments. So we've learned our first commands tonight, and there are tons of commands that you can run, and it'll take you, you know, you'll never learn them all. But yeah, commands are cool and all, but sometimes we need to do something specific. We need to be specific. Flags allow us to modify the behavior or output of a command. Very simple, and they're prefixed by a dash, so you can add on these flags to commands to do different things. And so we'll use the ls command for this. We'll talk about aliases as well. But our ls command, we typed in ls and we get a listing of the files and directories that are currently here. But you saw me do a couple of times something that looked a little bit different, but you can modify this command with flags. And again, you can change the output, you can change the input, you can just change the behavior of the command. This -L changes the output of the command, and it's going to be a long list. And so now it's going to provide me additional information. It's going to give it to me in, you know, a column format. It's going to provide all this other information that you will learn about in this course. So do not sweat not knowing what that is right now. But I get all of the directories and things right here. A little bit of, you know, knowledge. If the D's that are over here tell you that this thing is a directory, it's one of the ways. But yeah, it's really nice. I can also add in so that L gives me a long list. I can string these flags or arguments together as well. So I can do an LA, and so an A lists all files. So now I get way more stuff, you know, way more things than I got before. And the A says, hey, show me all files, not just show me hidden files and unhidden files. If you ever, you know, right clicked in Windows and clicked what is it? You right click and go to properties and then like click show hidden files. There are hidden files and directories all around the system. The -A will show those things. hidden files in Linux are denoted by this dot. These are all hidden files and folders. So none of these showed up before, but they show up now with a -A. And so I can string more and more of these things together to be able to, you know, get different information about what I am doing. And they all do different things. Yeah, they all do different things, and lots of commands have them. We're about to learn how you can find out what they are, but lots of commands have them. What other command did we do? We did pwd. I actually don't know if pwd has any, to be honest. I've never used one with pwd. You don't know. mkdir. Mkdir was one. So let's go into that documents directory. If we wanted to make those multiple directories, like you said, in here, in mastermind, so I can mkdir -p. So this -p is actually a specific mkdir command that will allow you to, it says, hey, whatever path is given, I want you to create this directory, but I want you to create every directory on the way there that does not exist. I want you to create every parent directory to this directory you're trying to create if it does not exist. So I can say, hey, in mastermind directory, go ahead and create 5, folder 5, 6, 10, 20, whatever. These are just different directories. And this has now created inside of mastermind, and actually sudo apt install. Let me get tree on here real quick, so I can show it to you a little bit easier. Come on. All right, so inside here there's 5. We're going to 5. What else is there? 6. If I hit tab complete, 10 and 20. So I can go all the way into these folders, and it did create all of these things by using that flag. And it made all these things in here. Really, like, sometimes really annoying. I don't know why I made so many folders that don't make any sense. I probably could have set up something that I wanted to use. You can also create multiple folders at once in the same place. I never remember the syntax for this. Let me go back. Documents mastermind. I can also do something like this. I think you have to do it like this. And I can create a orange and a yellow folder. I want to say something like this. Maybe not. Maybe I just do orange and yellow. And if you just do it like this, this will create, if you do a space in between, you can create multiple folders, but they will all be in the same place. Yeah, they will be all in the same exact place here. Yes, color is helpful. Colorful is helpful. It helps a lot. I will be showing you all how to get things to be more colorful. It's very helpful mentally. And you can do this with Bash. This is not strictly a ZSH thing. I'm using ZSH because everyone raves about it so much. I'm really trying to give it a chance. I'm really doing my best to give it a chance. And you know, I'm trying. You know, that's all you can ask, is for me to try. Okay, the last thing is, the very last thing is, hey, I keep seeing new commands. And people keep talking about new commands. You keep showing me new commands. I'm watching you do things. You're typing in commands that I've never seen before. How the heck do I know what they do and how to use them? How do I know? This is a great question. It is the question. How do you know what commands there are out there? You got to Google it. If you see someone use something, whenever you're following a tutorial, Google every command you don't know. Google it. Google it first. As there's probably some of you out here hating on me right now for saying this. Google that command. Google should be your first option. It should be your first option. Now, there is a way in Linux to get the information that you want. 100%. But I'm telling you to Google it. Googling it is the way. I want you to do it right now. The Linux way to get these answers is to read the manual. And this part can be really sucky. And I think this is an intermediate to advanced skill. I think this is, parsing man pages is not a beginner skill. And I really do hate when people tell beginners to go out and read the man pages, because it's really hard. these commands have manual pages. They have manuals that tell you what to do. Yes, RTFM, there's also no, not RTFM. Yes, later on, but no. There are some better manuals. There's TLDR and some other ones. But what you'll do is each command has a manual, or most commands have a manual. And so if I wanted to find out how to use the ls command, we learned the ls command tonight, or pwd, let's start with pwd. You can type in man, which is short for manual, and you type in the command and you get the manual for this thing. And it says, hey, here is the user command. It tells you what it is and what it does. Prints the name of the current working directory, and it gives you a little synopsis, how to use it. Then it gives you a description with the things that you want to do. You want to print the full file name or the current working directory. And you know, you get different options here on what you can do. And you know, a bunch of information. There might be some information on licensing and copyright materials and things like that, where to report bugs to. It's really nice. This is a very short man page. This is a very short man page. Let's do that. Let's man the man command. And it says, hey, manual pager utility, man, an interface to the system reference manuals. And look at there's just so much stuff here, and you can read about what it does and what to do. And you can read what kind of, there's some examples here if you want to do certain things with different flags. It tells you kind of what the flags do, and it gives you some examples. But again, this is hard to parse through. It's not easy to parse through this and to understand what's going on here and to know what you're looking for. You'll get better at it, and it will, you know, you will use it. You'll definitely use these man pages. I use them all the time for quick reference for certain things. You can find out what you need, find out what the flags are, find out how to use the command property. Man ls, I think, is pretty long. So remember ls, we did the -a, which is for all. Do not ignore entries starting with dot. That's what the -a does. And we also use the -l. Let's get all the way down to the -l. Use a long listing format. So I could add on all of these different things that would just do different options. It would just do different options. Oh, -lowercase o. That's kind of nice, actually. I never done that. ls-o. Great, excellent. That's kind of cool. I actually kind of like that a little bit. Makes my output a little bit better. That I learned something new today. TLDR is much more helpful. When we say info ls, yes, there's another way to do these things as well. They all suck. I think they all suck. Info works as well. I do not use info. That's not something I prefer. They all take a little bit of a learning to parse. It's all technical documentation has a level of learning that needs to happen before you're good at these things. And so yeah, so Google it first. I'm serious. For a long time, Google it first. It'll take time to be able to read the manual. Lots of commands have lots of different flags. You'll start to learn certain things, and then you can be like, oh man, learning all those flags is really annoying. I got to type those in every time. No, you don't. You saw me type in ll here, and ll is just an alias for I don't know what I have it set to right now. I'll check my ZSH config, and I think I can just type in alias ll is ls-lh. So when I type in ll, it's really running this command right here, ls-lh. And that's not even normally my full ls command. So I forgot this is my VM, because I have some stuff. There's some ways to append, you know, a capital A. Let's see. File type. Likewise, it's not append. The append indicator. /p. That seems weird. Yeah, so like you can do things like this. Now I've changed the command just a little bit, so now it'll tell me which ones are directories. Really nice. I can immediately see what's a directory and what's not, because it'll append a / to all the directories. So just cool. There's just cool things you can do. All of these things take lots of time to learn, and you'll come across them at different times. And you don't actually need all of them. Like you can do, you can get by with just ls for a very long amount of time, or ls-l for a very long amount of time. Like you're gonna need this as we get it further along. You'll need to be able to get this information. But yeah, that is what that's it, really. And so what are our tangible takeaways for tonight with our last 4 minutes? All I want you to understand is a little bit about the Linux file system. The basic structure. I want you to understand that everything in Linux is a file, and if it's not a file, it's a process. I want you to understand that the Linux file system is just a tree. It's a directory tree starting from /. Linux directories, Linux file systems always start from /. I also want you to understand the difference between a GUI and a command line. So the GUI is a graphical user interface, and the command line is a command line interface. So graphical user interface is where you're using graphical components to interact with the computer, whereas command line, you are issuing commands to the computer via text to perform specific actions. And we're going to be learning how to do mostly CLI stuff in this course, actually all CLI stuff in this course, to be honest, to manage our Linux computers. The CLI is a graphical representation of a command line interface. So this one is absolutely, my terminal is, but you know, I guess even in a real like terminal, I guess it kind of is as well, to be honest. What's up, Tricetta? How you doing tonight? And then other than that, I want you to understand file pathing and how to navigate the Linux system using either absolute file paths or relative file paths. Absolute file paths being the full file path of the location of the directory or file you care about, starting from the root of the computer, which is /. Relative file paths start from, they're relative to where you currently are on the computer. And you can use both of these, either one of these at any given time. You can, you know, it's kind of your choice depending on what you're doing. There are times where different ones are better, but you'll run into those throughout your, you'll start to find out which one is which. Besides that, I want you to understand to move around, to switch to new directories, you want to use the cd command. To go backwards one, you want to use the cd ... command. Yeah, and then I just want you to understand to know how to orient yourself. So using the pwd command to see where you currently are on the system, what your present working directory is, and the ls command will show you what is in the current location that you're currently at. Yeah, and then we learned about flags a little bit, that you can extend these commands. You can make these commands do different things by passing in flags, and flags are denoted with a dash, and you can combine these flags together. And we also learned there's a way to find out how to use these commands. I think you should Google it, but there you can use man pages or info. You can use these manual pages inside of Linux to find out how to use these commands, as well as what options you have with them. But that's everything. That's all of it for tonight. I know there's a lot to still learn. People were throwing out commands, other file operation commands. Those are what we're learning next time. I did notice that on academy.mastermind.io the days are switched actually. And I need to go and change it. Excursion, Waddle. The days are switched. Day 3, all this stuff from day 3, this stuff is actually happening next. This stuff is happening here, and this stuff's happening here. These two things are switched, and this is also file and directory operations. Directories are files, so one reason I didn't put that there. So all of that, we learned how to make directories here, but we didn't learn how to remove them. We didn't learn how to do anything with files. We're gonna be learning all about that stuff, management of those things, how to edit text, Linux permissions, that's what we're going to be diving into next time. And you should have your intern T-Bell fix it. Yeah, T-Bell, I'm gonna have you fix it. I don't know if you're on, you're probably not on, but he might struggle a little bit with no, I'm joking, he's fully competent. But yeah, you know, I'll give him a chance. He can fix it. But yeah, so those are swapped. And I might add a few more bullet points in there because I ended up adding a substantial amount of stuff. Also, if you're interested in learning how to use VI or Vim, we will be spending a little bit of time next time hopping into Vim as well, or to VI, sure, Vim, whatever. For a number of reasons. People are probably about why this. We're gonna be using some other things, Nano as well, but VI is what's gonna be available to you on a lot of systems. So we'll be learning that. If you've ever been interested in learning Vim, we will be learning Vim next time, as well as these other things. But that's it. That is it for this evening. You know, kept it pretty simple. If this is your first time diving into Linux and you're like, oh man, I didn't understand any of this, don't sweat it. Watch the videos that I added into the over here into the Notion. And what I want you to do is, especially if you created a VM, I want you to play around. I want you to just type in things, use those basic commands. Use 3 commands: pwd, cd, and ls. So pwd to find out where you are, do an ls to see where you can go, and cd into a new directory, and start to get comfortable and mess around and play around. I think it'll help you a lot. If you want to learn how to use those man pages a lot better, there is this video here. Just, you know, there's a lot of pervs out there. This person is not the person teaching it. They put this here so that you will click on the video, and it worked for a lot of people, but it is an excellent video, a definitive guide on, you know, mastering Linux man pages, which is a tough subject. It is an intermediate to advanced subject. And yes, I am not a Prime Vim user. I'm not on Prime's level, nowhere near it. But you know, I know my way around Vim. And I think you should too, for a number of reasons. And I'll tell you why as well next time, why you should learn it. People are always like, why do you need to learn Vim? Well, a lot of servers don't have GUIs, and a lot of systems don't have GUIs. And if you're responsible, you ever have to log into them, and you got to edit text. I mean, how are you going to do it? Nano's probably not going to be on there, but VI will be. So you need to, it's a good skill to at least know basic text editing inside of VI, and it'll be pretty great. But that is it. Thank you all for another great stream. I'm glad I have, oh, what I did say is that I would give you guys a way to contact me. I know that this is that we would have discussions where I could guarantee a 24-hour response. I went through a number of processes. The best way, for a lot of reasons in this, is simply LinkedIn. So I'll give you, I think you can type in LinkedIn, I think. Nope, let's add it really quick. And the reason why, let's see, exclamation point commands, add exclamation point LinkedIn, HTTPS, LinkedIn dot, was it linked.in? Is that the website? .in/r/ no, linked, is it linkedin.com? I don't know, linkedin.com. Let's look it up. I don't even know why I'm typing this in. I just wanted to see if I remembered it. It's linkedin.com/in, linkedin.com/in/mastermind.io. Okay, so type in command. No, that's not what I meant to do. I meant to type in LinkedIn. And if you type in LinkedIn, it'll come up. And I've almost cleared out my LinkedIn message. I have like 2. If you message me on LinkedIn, I will get back to you within 24 hours, always. I have a process to do this now, for 1, and 2, the reason why LinkedIn's a good place is, 1, if we need to move it into email or to another format, this will give us a space to. Also, it'll allow me to asynchronously give information and get information about you in the event that we are working together to help find out to help you figure out what you want to do, what kind of career path you want to take. I can see, you know, what you've done and what you've kind of been into, what you're interested in, and everyone, you know, isn't set up for that, but there are a lot of people who are, and it's I think it's going to be a good place for me to handle these things outside of email. I don't think I should handle all these things in email for right now. So LinkedIn is the place that I would like you to Message me if you want to, you know, chat about anything. You want to ask questions. You want to shoot me your resume. You want to figure out where to go from here. Let me know. That's where we'll do it. Well, that's it. I told you I would get it to you, and I got it to you. That's the place. Only $13.37 a minute. Hey, you know, if I'm not charging, but $13.37 a minute sounds amazing. Okay, and you're willing to pay it, you know, if you feel it in your heart to say, hey, you're on the clock, I will pay you for every minute. Great. No, I'm joking. No, completely free. Like, reach out. Seriously, reach out. There will actually be a lot more structure again around the recruiting services piece, and it's really less of that. It's really I'm really trying to be y'all talent agent, like a football talent agent. You know, your career is important. You know, some people just need more help than others navigating it. And if I can help find the connections, I will. No, I will not. For $20 a minute, I will not speak any slower. I will speak even faster because I care about your money. You know, I feel bad. I feel super bad taking your money. I want to take money from the companies. I want, you know, LaCroix, I'm talking to you. Under Armour, I'm talking to you. The Rock, I'm talking to you. I want your money. That's whose money I want. I don't want your money. I don't want a chat. I don't want your money. I want the people who really got it. Okay, so Under Armour, I know you're out there. I know somebody from Under Armour's out there. I know somebody from LaCroix. LaCroix, you're playing with me. I know you're playing with me. I know you're watching. I know you're waiting. Dwayne the Rock Johnson, you know, he's watching because you know, I put out, you know, the message that said, hey, you know, soon, a year from now, the Rock will be number 2. I will be the number 1 Rock. He will be the number 2 Rock in the world, and he's worried about that. You know, he's the one who told me to be the hardest worker in the room, and so I took his advice, and he'll be number 2. And yeah, you know, and number 2s have to give number 1s their money. All right, you heard that, Mr. Rock? But no, LaCroix did not respond at all, but we'll get back on it. We'll definitely get back on it, blah, for sure. And we'll make it happen. But that's it. I gotta go do some work. Who are we rating this evening? Let's see who's online. Let's see, is anybody else from Live Coders on? I like to raid people from the Live Coders team. And I will always pick not always, but what I'm gonna start doing is picking the person who is at, we already did Phil before. Oh, Callow's on. So we will head over to Callow so we can do some cool stuff. She-Boss, thank you very much. Have a good evening, everybody. We are gonna, oh yeah, that's my gaming channel. He has 24 hours. Okay, that's him. I like it. Everyone head over to Stone Cold Stream Austin one day. One day we'll hop on there. We're gonna read Callow creation. That look right? That looks right. Everyone let Callow know we said what's up. Callow has a pretty dope layover. I mean, what's it called? It's not layover. It's a, I don't, my mind. I'm an old man. I can't really think, but he got some stuff on this thing that you got to fight when you get raided. It's all crazy. I don't know, but Contained is tomorrow. If you like Docker, come on through tomorrow. We're going to be diving deeper into Docker, and it's going to be pretty fun. What's up, Ferrybot? You missed us. We're at the end now. We're actually about to go over and raid Callow creation right now. Oh, AWS Subsidy will be great. We'll hit AWS up as well. But all good, man. Everybody, we'll be back tomorrow at 7. We'll be back every night. Well, Monday through Thursday at 7. Come through and join us. We're going to head over to our boy Callow and say hello. Everybody have a great night, you know, and I'm going to go eat some dinner now. Peace.